Looks like we're live. All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started. So good afternoon, everyone. We are live here with Blacks in Cybersecurity and Orca Intelligence, and we're doing this for understanding your privacy on social media. So this is pretty basic. We're looking forward to educating and adding some value to everyone. So, yep, you can go move to the next one, Akil, and then I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
So we came up with a pretty cool way that we want people to remember what's important when sharing your information on social media. So what we're shortening it to PMG, which is personal P for personal information data sharing, and then M for media, and G for group data. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Again, my name is Melissa Daley. I'm a part of Orca Intelligence. We have Akil here, who is also with Orca Intelligence as well. And so we're all going to be going through, or him and I are going to be going through this in detail, just to kind of talk to everyone about what are some ways to really look at social media to safeguard yourself as you're distributing information across any of the social media platforms. So I'll jump in when necessary, but Akil, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Sure. So let's begin. So primarily we're going to be talking about Facebook today. In the future, we may do other presentations regarding other social media platforms. But just for reference for people, a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is based around the Facebook privacy policy. I put the link here, and if anyone needs it, we can give it out. And throughout the process, we can try to denote some things that are particularly invasive, as you're going to find quite a bit of a few things are within the Facebook privacy policy. But it's also more or less to give an idea of what one signs up for, or what one can expect, or expectation of privacy when they are using Facebook, which isn't really explicitly spelled out for you before you create an account. So moving on, as Melissa had pointed out, we're really trying to drive home this kind of categorization of data in PMG, like OMG. I guess a really easy way to remember it. PMG, so P for personal information. Some examples you'll see are like the data that you share, your name, address, location, things of that nature, things that help personally identify you as opposed to everybody. Media such as pictures, audio, etc. Other things that you would share online, as well as groups such as like Facebook groups, communities, hashtags, things of the like. And so another way we're going to categorize things or go through things during the policy is these going through it within these categories. So what information is collected? So what does Facebook know about me? What information is shared? What is Facebook telling other people, or what can others find out about me? And then how is that information shared? So who can see this information? How can they see it? Well, what can they see? Is it for sale? So starting off, these are things that we've taken from the relevant information we've taken from the policy that we felt like was most relevant to what we're talking about. So starting off with the first section, the P for the personal information, we're looking at what information is collected. So we kind of denote, as you'll see in the top, kind of what section of the policy this is from. So if you want to follow along. So what kind of information do we collect? So one of the things that stuck out was information about transactions being the products. So, if that Facebook, I think they have like a pay system, so you can send money to people as well as you can make transactions on the platform. And one thing is that information is something that they collect regarding, and it's not just information about the transaction, but it includes your information about the credit card, the debit card number, other card information, as well as shipping, billing addresses, contact details, which I hope many people are aware of. Next, also other information that's collected, data from devices such as your GPS location, camera, and photos. I mean, generally speaking, with most smartphone devices, it's a good practice to not always keep your GPS on, but it's also should be noted that some of these social media platforms do track GPS location and other things of the nature. But also looking into network connections, such as your mobile phone IP address, connection speed information about, and I guess one thing that was very worrying and definitely seemed invasive was information about other devices that are nearby in your network. When I showed this one to Melissa, both of our eyes went wide. That was a bit unexpected. So moving into what information is shared. So yeah, there's a different section within this that talks about how information or what information they use. So information across Facebook products. So Facebook isn't just the social media platform. They have also own different products and a wide company that has acquired other companies, and information that is, let's say, on Facebook or on other ones can be shared amongst each other. As well as location-related information. Again, through GPS tracking that they use, but they can so things like such as your current location, where you live, places you like to go, businesses, and people you're nearby. Oftentimes, they'll say it's for the collection of giving you ads that are more relevant to you, but definitely is something that is very invasive and that you should be aware of. PI, still going into what information is shared. So how the Facebook companies work together. Again, as stated before, Facebook owns different companies, a few to name outside of just Instagram, Oculus for the VR, as well as WhatsApp. And because they share infrastructure, it can be, we can definitely understand that information is being shared. So the information that you have in WhatsApp or Instagram is not guaranteed to just stay in that one platform. It is most likely to be shared amongst across the platforms and isn't just sectioned off that one. Another one, how is information shared? Looking at public information. So I guess by default, it considers most things that you put in your public profile to be public information. So this includes things like your Instagram username, information that you share with the public audience, information with, on your public profile, content you share on the Facebook page, public Instagram pages, things of the like. Public information can be seen, accessed, reshared, downloaded through third-party services. So we get into kind of some of the third-party services and like advertisers and the like that Facebook works with. But it's just kind of that, and we'll also kind of maybe speak upon the settings of Facebook that you can tweak for added security or privacy. But it should be noted that most of the things, there's just a assumption that whatever you post is public unless you kind of specify within the settings otherwise. And as it's public information, it's kind of fair game for other people to share and collect. So how is this information shared? As I alluded to before, we're going to definitely talk more about this as well. Different third parties, such as partners offering goods and services to the product. So, partners working with Facebook, which is content creators or sellers can receive public information and other information you share with them as well. Vendors and service providers as well also have information to like I guess some metadata and other information that you share, as well as payment information. Researchers and academics as well are given access to information, and the other one being law enforcement, which I guess one thing that stuck out to me is like we share information with law enforcement in response to legal requests, and sometimes I don't know, something as like definitely stuck out to me with regards to surely there's not been any abuses regarding law enforcement in certain investigations, and that's definitely when it came to privacy one thing that definitely stuck out to me. Another thing of importance, in this section that talked about how can I delete information about me, was this portion of the policy is that information that others have shared about you isn't part of your account and won't be deleted. So there's this expectation, or one might have this expectation, which I have an account and I delete it. And then if I delete my account, that kind of removes my footprint and, all the information that I've shared, but that isn't the case. If other people have information that they've shared about you, that doesn't go away. And definitely something you should, take into account. So next we're going from the personal information section into the media section, images, videos, and audio. So going from here, what kinds of information do we collect? Going from the different categories we said before. So they go into things that information that you provide, and the people are highlighted talking about include information or content you provide, like metadata. Again, talking about location, photos, and data files that you create, as well as other features that they can see through your camera. So within the Facebook's camera, information that they are able to collect about you. So how is information shared? One thing that we're going to talk about briefly is deepfakes, but that goes into the facial recognition. And I guess one of the intrusive things that we that you'll see in the policy is how facial recognition is used. It's used to recognize you in photos and videos and camera, but not just in terms of your own photos, but also the photos of others. And I myself have seen, I'm sure others have seen as well, when you're on Facebook, sometimes it will ask you about a picture, and without even, say, personally, manually wanting to tag someone, Facebook will have already identified a face of someone in your network and will ask you if you want to tag them. So kind of the facial recognition software, and something that can definitely be seen as invasive. But then looking at, we're going to talk about deepfakes and how that kind of can apply to it with regards to facial recognition software. But with regards to deepfakes, for those who don't know, it's essentially allows you to seamlessly stitch anyone in the world into a video or photo that they didn't participate in. So I'm sure most of the people have kind of seen them, maybe with Obama or other politicians or celebrities or musicians, kind of stitching on, either your face in some apps or other people's faces into them that weren't actually their faces. So this is done through the use of artificial intelligence technology, and deepfakes are, can be used for, funny meme videos, stuff like that. But on the darker side, it can be used for fraud, blackmail, personal purposes, and personal revenge. And one of the protections that one can do is definitely limiting the facial recognition settings, which I think you definitely can. It's one thing that you can toggle on the Facebook settings, in which you can stop it, I think, by default from tagging you in the photos of other people. So now we're going into the media section of the privacy policy. So going into how information is collected through networks and connections. So it's collected from pages, like personal business accounts or different pages you might like, hashtags of where they collect information, in groups that you interact with, or products that you interact with as well as taking information from your personal device. So looking at how you choose to upload sync information from a device, as well as your address book, your call log, or SMS log history. Again, very invasive. So how information is collected, again, within the media policy. Also information from partners. That's another third party that you kind of see come up a lot, that Facebook shares information from. Like it was, app developers, publishers, advertisers, and Facebook will supply them with information about your activities on the platform, such as your visits, your purchases, how you view ads, how you use their services, whether or not you're logged into Facebook, so your activity, as well as they talk about your purchase, as well as not just on the platform, but some related third-party providers as well. And also, yeah, partners receive data when you visit or use the services through third parties they work with. So still on the how information is collected, people and accounts you share information with. So when you share and communicate using the products, you choose the audience that you share. So this is kind of alluding again to the setting side of things. So there's this kind of there's not really this expectation of privacy that automatically Facebook is going to protect one's privacy. It's definitely one thing that you yourself have to take into your own hands, and not assume that they're going to do that. So your network can also see actions you take on products, including engagements with ads and supporting, content. So again, not assuming that there's this expectation of privacy by default. So still on the how information is shared, apps, websites, and third-party integrations on our products. So again, with third parties having access to information, and especially with regards to things that you post and share. So again, it might not necessarily be directly with the Facebook app, but other related third-party apps. Also, I guess, sorry, the other one before I move on that I wanted to note was the portion at the bottom. Information collected by these third-party services is subject to their own terms and policies, not this one. So another kind of gray area that they might not blatantly advertise is that when it comes to privacy, there's also it's not clear cut. So even of the privacy policies that you might be setting on to Facebook, if information is being shared on another third party platform, that information is subject to its own policies. So again, another way that you have to take privacy into your own hands, and how it's not that there isn't that expectation of privacy by default. So how is information shared? People and accounts you share and collect information with. Yeah, you choose the audience that you share. Sorry. My bad. So
no worries, you're good. You're good.
I've been a duplicate. So partners, again, partners who use their analytics services as well. So we're moving also with the group policy. This also relates to page admins. So the pages admins of the pages or groups that you're a part of also have access to the information, such as the Instagram business profiles, or any other groups that, like musicians or like other groups. There's lots of metadata that they speak about, like aggregated demographics and other information. Again, another third-party advertisers. So again, kind of what I've spoken about before, how information, your privacy is within your own hands. So one other way that this is kind of expressed in the profiles, they talk about, let's say, they say that you kind of choose audiences that you share your information with, and in the event there's any issues, they kind of oftentimes tell you to go forward and make the report and take that action, as opposed to they themselves moderating that privacy. So it's just again another reminder within the policy that your privacy is within your own hands. So highlighting, there's a lot. The privacy policy is pretty long, but again, just kind of highlighting some key points just to remember, and definitely check it out on your own. I would highly recommend that. But talking about your privacy is in your own hands, as I said many times before. Your privacy is only as strong as your settings and the decisions that you make. By default, everything you share is considered public information. So again, that's something that you can tweak a little bit in the settings in terms of who sees your information, but you should always have that assumption. Also, again, when you delete your account, information that others shared about you, which isn't considered part of your account, won't be deleted. So remembering that there's a wider footprint on this site than you might realize, and that your information can be associated with you even off the Facebook platform and related apps that use your information, as well as third parties. Public information can also be seen, accessed, and be shared and downloaded through third parties. Again, so it's not just Facebook; it's also the groups that Facebook works with. Other people are free to share your information as well. So it's another kind of layer to think about, that it's not just your own actions. When you choose to use third-party apps and applications on the websites or other services that are integrated with Facebook, they also can share information about you. And when you download or use third-party services, they can access your public profile on Facebook and any information you share about them. So information collected by third-party services is subject to their own terms and policies. So again, another thing to take into consideration when using Facebook. So as listed, there was like definitely some, always want to keep in mind some of the third parties, the word that I've used a lot, but some of the third parties that Facebook shares information with. So not just necessarily those within the Facebook company, but people who use analytic data, advertisers, as I'm sure many of you have seen lots of ads that you might be surprised by how relevant they are based off of your activities or maybe what you said or looked up. Management partners, partners offering goods and services on Facebook, vendors, researchers, law enforcement, and legal requests, as well as developers. But also what the policy says, we don't sell any of your information to anyone. We will never sell, but that rule can potentially be bypassed by redefining certain parties. And we asked, Melissa, would you want to help talk about this?
Yeah. So this is a diagram that I kind of came up with to basically depict how you can kind of measure your risk factors, right? So there's low exposure, anything to the left of this diagram. So like, let's say if you have a low to high security settings and not a lot of data sharing, basically, you are pretty much at, low exposure. And then where you see the yellow dotted line and then the blue line, that's basically, medium exposure, where you have a balance of some security settings and a balance of, information sharing. And then you have high exposure, which is, basically you have low information sharing. High information sharing and low security settings. But then even though you may have medium security settings, you still are at some risk if you are sharing a lot of information. You only have a medium amount of security settings associated with a lot of information sharing. So you just want to kind of balance it all out. Like we said, you want to be able to understand, how much am I sharing online? And we're going to go through some examples, and we really want some crowd participation as well to see if we can find you online, if you don't mind, or we can make up a fictitious person that we would try to search online and see how much information we can find about them. Because that's the main thing is, how much information can someone find out about you? There are some services where you can pay for this information and find out about people, but we want to be able to minimize that as much as possible. So we want to kind of help you out in learning how to minimize that. You want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
So now we're here with, let's see how easy it is for someone to find your information. Is there anyone in the audience? I know we don't have a lot of people at the moment, but there's anyone in the audience that wants to see if we can basically Google them and see what we find? Type yourself in the chat or type your name in the chat and let's see. Or I was going to suggest something else, but maybe not today. Any volunteers? No one wants to be searched? Well, I think what we can do is we can go ahead and search a couple of sites or a couple of people anyway. If we don't have any volunteers. Oh, Mark Harris. Okay, Mark Harris. Well, let's do it.
Did you want to take over the screen sharing then, or?
Sure. I'm not familiar with this, so maybe not. I don't want to do it. So just if you want to stop your screen and then we can look up Mark.
Give me a second.
Mark Harris, that is.
Okay. So we're doing the search on okay.
And then if you want to pull up your browser window, let's see what we find.
Trying to think. It was Mark Harris. Just a second.
Are you going to share your window again?
Yep.
Okay. I wish we had some music playing.
Yeah.
To see, some weight music.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating what we'll find. Now, Mark, I hope that whatever we find isn't, too much. I hope you're not out there. I hope you're not in the red zone versus the green zone, right? I hope you're somewhere in the green zone. Because if you're in the red zone, depends on what type of information you're sharing. I don't know you, Mark. So, I'm just going to go with that it's safe information. It's not something that's going to expose you in any bad light. So we'll see. Where are we, Akil?
Can you see my screen?
No.
Oh, okay. Give me a second. Let me try. Can you see it now?
No.
No? Okay. Give me a second. I thought you could see my screen before.
All right. Well, you said very safe, Mark. We're going to test that out.
How about now? Still no?
No.
No?
How do you share screen? I don't know how to use this. I'm feeling very technically challenged today.
Let me try again. My apologies. Yeah, I'm not used to this platform.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I'm about to look this up to see how we can share a screen. I don't know.
We can want to save that portion until the end. Then I guess we can.
We're using Restream Studio. I don't know. I just, I can't learn all these hundreds of technologies in a week. All right. So we can share that. So can we share the presentation again or no?
Let me try that.
Yeah, or another day.
Can you see?
I can. I can see your presentation, but I couldn't see your.
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay. So we can't do. How about you select stop sharing on that? Like, and then okay, I don't know. I'm feeling a loss of what to do here. Because I really wanted to see whether or not I was getting excited to see whether or not Mark Harris had some, a scandal. Jeez, I wanted some drama, something. But that's fine. Another day, Mark. You said you're good. We'll go on to what we think. Can you share your presentation again, Akil?
Sure.
What we think is safe versus what we think is not safe.
Okay. Can you see my screen again?
Yeah.
Okay. Oop. All the way back there. And let's scroll down. So we had a few example pages just to give you an idea of some, Facebook pages that one could expect and looking, examining it from the privacy point of view. and looking at what information can one find when looking at one's profile. And definitely you can see, like, just looking at it from, I guess, maybe put your, black hat on, think of it as someone maybe who might be thinking of having nefarious purposes, thinking about like what information is available here, and that could maybe kind of better inform you as to, am I sharing too much? So, with this person, I've obfuscated the names to keep the innocent protected. But you can see where this person works. You can see where they studied at. You can see where they currently live, the languages they speak. But I guess for me, one of the things that definitely stood out was like the maps. That's a feature that where people in Facebook where people can check into different areas. And definitely that's one thing in terms of privacy that you want to be careful of, is checking in, like, I ate at this restaurant, or I'm here on this trip, and you might want to let people know, but it's also something to just consider when thinking of security.
Now, does anybody in the audience think that this is too much information or too little information? Like, where would this lie in our graph that we talked about? You can take your time to answer that, but it'll be nice to hear if anybody thinks that any of these images that we were displaying is, too much information or just enough information. Go ahead, Akil. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. I was going to ask you just for to chime in any point in time with this. Because I can't see the screen. We're waiting on audience participation for people to chime in.
Mm-hmm. So we got one. It's okay. Now, I don't know. I feel like with this, there's so much that I can do as a hacker. I always think I'm a petty hacker. And so there's a lot of information here that I know that this is too much for me. It's just too much, right? Like, there's just so much that I can do with this that would probably be a little much, I think, in sharing. But I have all my opinions about Facebook anyway. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. Here's another example. So this one, I think, probably maybe a slightly more detailed, probably also a different version of Facebook as well. But yeah, you can see quite a bit of things here. I think he took the liberty of putting, let's say, like his roommates, like kind of sectioning off different parts, like who he's in a relationship with, roommates, friends. You can see his education, his likes, as well as his current employer, where he studied, where he currently lives, where he's from originally also.
So way too much information from the previous one. So his security settings are probably pretty low with high information. So I feel like this would be in the red zone for me personally. If anyone else in the chat has anything they want to add, please let us know. But what do you think, Akil?
Definitely a lot in terms of like, I don't know, if I'm thinking in terms of, let's say, someone with nefarious purposes, the more information the better. So it's always something that, okay, maybe you're not blatantly putting your password out there, but it's always like hints or leads to getting more information, and the more information you have out there is more leads that they can potentially have towards getting something more sensitive. Like, I don't know, like maybe I want to brute force a password or something, and like, okay, let me just throw a bunch of the artists you like in there, maybe into like a dictionary file or something to further narrow that down. Just like a lower level thought process of mine.
Okay. What do we got next?
So just another example of a page. So the different pages that can kind of, this is less of a personal one, more the clothing brand, but just also giving an example of like the what different profiles or pages can show in terms of how much information they can show. And so I guess this one is different. You'll see obviously from like a personal account, but I guess also another layer, another way to display this information is like having, let's say, like a business page or like a public figure page. Like let's say of a musician, it's probably not going to have their address and their phone number. It's going to have basic information, in terms of, okay, here's a contact number, maybe your an email. And oftentimes that won't route directly to that person. It'll be their agent. So there's definitely added layer of privacy with pages like this as compared to like some more personal pages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think organizations like this, their focus is not necessarily on people and how
Mm-hmm.
to use people data. It's more so on, for this particular one, is clothing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have less information sharing, which is, a bit safer. But then depending on how Facebook may use their third party apps, if you're connecting with this through third party, Facebook may then use this information in order to, provide some preferences or recommendations to the user. What do we have next?
So yeah, just general mitigation steps or things that you can do to further like strengthen your privacy controls. The first one I put, don't use Facebook as one possibility in this case due to the privacy policy. Like there's some invasive components of the privacy policy or lack thereof in terms of lack of privacy controls. If someone is looking to really protect their privacy, one legitimate option might be to just not use Facebook. I mean, definitely, like, as we saw before, Facebook can be a treasure trove of information for potential, would be, stalkers or people like that. So, another consideration is to use other social media sites. I mean, granted, I feel like a lot of social media sites tend to come with their own privacy issues, but one might be better in some areas that Facebook is lacking with regards to privacy. Um, so, in other, making sure that you have a strong privacy settings is another thing that we kind of mentioned in that diagram before as well. Is that if you're going to use these social media sites or especially like Facebook, make sure that you have strong settings to protect your information. Did I go into this one? Yeah. I think some of the points that I had mentioned before were like making it easier for stalkers. Let's say you have that information on Facebook, as well as trying to tip people off of things in your home. Kind of allude to the next slide in terms of what are some of the risks of oversharing, as we talked about in the diagram, and which you can have oversharing and mitigate that with like strong privacy settings. But here are a few examples and potential dangers of them. Say oversharing one's location, like I say every day I'm going to this coffee shop and I'm taking a picture and marking the geolocation that I was at. Definitely can make it easier for stalkers or people to find you. Also, just let other people know when you're not home. Like, it's nice to kind of take pictures and vacations, but it can be like, okay, oh, word, you're not home? You're in Cuba? Okay. For like a month? Okay. Let me come over. Oversharing in folders also can tip people off of some things in your life. Like, maybe some people can get an idea of, based off of photos, like where you're living, your neighborhood, good information of things that they find in the background of certain photos. And as well as oversharing your interests can allow hackers to gain information about you. Like I said before, I kind of stated before in one of the examples, one, I guess, low-level example might be someone trying to use that to better guess your password. Because, I don't know, maybe you like Backstreet Boys and your password is Backstreet Boys 1998. So, guidelines for social media privacy. Don't overshare personal or sensitive information. Limit who can view your profiles and accounts. Again, something that you can also set in the settings of Facebook. Assume that everything you put online will be there forever. One should always have that assumption, and so moving forward, you should always be mindful of what you post online. Different email accounts and passwords for social media. So let's say if your Facebook account is compromised, that doesn't mean that all of your accounts, let's say your bank or other financial accounts are compromised. When social media platforms are free, that means that your information is the product. So oftentimes, I think people forget or don't consider that, let's say a platform is free, they don't consider that kind of there's always a trade-off. And that trade-off in that case being that you are the product. The way that this company will make will make money is through the use of your information, oftentimes selling it to advertisers. And then limit application permissions. So it's another thing in terms of a lot of these applications, especially on mobile, will ask for certain permissions such as, access to your camera or your contacts, or your media, or like your data storage. Those are things you should also monitor when considering privacy. If you want to learn more, please check out cybersafetycheck.com. You can get email safety checks, phone number safety checks, website safety checks, cybersecurity awareness training, as well as working on the Google and Office 365 testing labs. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Akil. I think this was helpful, hopefully, for the audience. And then those who may watch later. I think the gist here and the reminder is PMG, which is your personal data. So anything that you're putting in that is maybe something similar to your address, your name, your birthday, like thinking about your personal identifiable data that you may be entering into any system, not just in social media, but social media is mostly for public information sharing. And so thinking about that, and then for the M, thinking about any media, like we said, audio, video, photos, and so on and so forth. And then G, how that information gets grouped and aggregated. That's very important to any social media organization, is that they want to be able to aggregate your information so that it can be sold and so that it can be utilized as a group of data. So one of the main things that I want us to make sure that we take away from this is that, at the end of the day, all of your personal data is very important, and it is sold on markets constantly. So, the more you can do to try to safeguard yourself, there's no perfect scenario. I mean, there's certain things that I do that are probably a little bit overkill, and there's certain things that I do that are not enough. So it's all about you and how you want to set your own privacy and take care of that. I think going forward, we may do some other things around social media or just mobile device management and everything else. But the idea is to try to use some of the best practices that we're presenting to you so that you can safeguard yourself. And hopefully you'll share this video with others so that they can get a better understanding as into what the policy is saying, because I think it's very important to understand what the policy is saying, because this policy, if you're just logging or signing up, you kind of go through the policy pretty quickly and not necessarily sitting down and reading it. And I think by going through this video, it will be helpful for everyone to just kind of take the time and go through the different policy steps that we highlighted here. So any questions, comments, feedback, anything else you guys want to listen to next that you want us to present in the next 3 months, I guess? Nope, it's quiet. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. Hopefully this was helpful. And we look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Melissa and Akil, for being here with us at Blacks in Cybersecurity. Thank you to everyone else that logged in online on all the different media streams, and we're looking forward to seeing you next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.